I'll work into it. I saw from Rabbi Feinstein, very nice idea in Perik Beis, Pasuk Gimel. It says about Shabbos, and it says Hashem gave a special bracha to Shabbos and He sanctified it. What was the bracha that Hashem gave? So Rashi brings down from the Medrash that Berechu b'mon, the bracha, the blessing Hashem gave was to the month. Every day of the week, only one omer went down. Each person got a certain portion, and on the sixth day, on Friday, they got a double portion. So Rabbi Feinstein asked, okay, that's a beautiful thing for that time period, for that generation of the Torah Mitzvah that they had the month. But what about? But now we don't have. What about for future generations? Where is the bracha for the future generations? So Rabbi Feinstein says that the bracha for future generations apply as well today. We don't have the month. The Gemara says, "Hakol kesuvim lo mirosh." The Gemara says in Be'er, "Kol kesuvim mirosh Hashanah." Everything is said Rosh Hashanah, so Shabbos and Yom Tov, so there are certain things are not part of your regular income, so to speak. Certain things is something that you're a guest by somebody's table. You know, when someone takes you out to eat, who pays the bill? You don't pay the bill. The person who's taking you out pays the bill. So that's the same thing over here in a certain sense. That the way Shabbos works is whatever, let's say a person's supposed to make $50,000, let's say, and then he goes ahead, but that $50,000 will pay for what he needs for the 6 days of the week. But the rest of the money, the rest that he needs for Shabbos, that's Hashem, that's on Hashem's cheshbon. You're a guest at someone's house, that's not going to come off it's not coming off your $50,000 you need. That's paid, that's totally paid for by Hashem, independent of yourself. So therefore he says, that's the bracha, and the way he says it, it seems to us that we're working for 6 days to pay for 7, but that's not what it is. When we're working 6 days, there are 6 days paid for the 6 days. The 7th day, that's on his account. Bill it to Hashem, so to speak. It's built to him. That's what we have to recognize, the special bracha. And if people recognize that and feel that, so therefore taking one. Therefore people wouldn't feel so bad not working on Shabbos. Because when you think you don't need to work on Shabbos to pay for Shabbos. Shabbos is already paid for. It's on someone else's pay. And you need to work 6 days to pay for your 6 days expense. The Shabbos expense is already taken care of. Now, Rabbi Feinstein, I once heard from him, very interesting, the parsha, marriage is the parsha, the idea of pruvu, and that's Eza Kenegdo. Have a helpmate. Hashem says, I want to, not say Eza Kenegdo. So Rabbi Feinstein once said, a beautiful idea, and if you'd ask you, would you want Kenegdo, a helpmate Kenegdo? Well, how do you translate Kenegdo? Right, opposing, against. Who wants to? You want a wife? You want an Eza helpmate opposing? You want a helpmate that's with you? You want a Kenegdo? I mean, so the Chazal say, Zocha. We know Chazal say, if you merit, then your wife will be an Eza, will be a helpmate. If you're not Zocha, then she'll be Kenegdo. It will be against you. And I once heard from the Mashgiach, Rabbi Michal Birnbaum said, Zocha also comes from the word of Zoch, Shem and Zayah Zoch. If you're Zoch the Midos, Rabbi Birnbaum himself said, if you're pure in your Midos, Nasu Eza. If a husband and a wife act properly, then it'll be a very great help, and so on and so forth. But if you're not Zoch the Midos, if you're not pure in the way you act, so therefore it'll be connected opposing. Rabbi Feinstein says, but the literal translation of the parsha is that connect was against opposing. So he says when a person looks for a wife...
I think the literal translation probably connect though in the sense of corresponding to it.
Okay. But there's also room to say connect though is something a little bit going against in a certain sense. And what's the idea? An animal, Adam was not satisfied to have an animal as a helpmate. Why? Because an animal is whatever you say, the animal follows. But you're not eating anything. An animal's not eating anything to the human being. It's just yes. But when it comes to a wife, she has a mind of her own. There's something different that she adds to the table. She has her own mind. She has her own ideas. And they, like the Gemara says, regarding women, in the Brachos, Sheshem Deos, right? The Gemara says regarding certain things. So what do we see? We see that it's not good enough just to have. You have to have someone else's input, and therefore, when the husband thinks has an idea, the wife says, "No, I see it differently," and then they both can both share each other how they see something, and therefore they can come to some sort of conclusion what the right thing to be done. So therefore, that's the Eza Kenegdo. That's the Kenegdo. Rabbi Friedman also mentioned that if you look at the word Eza has the same letters as Zera, as children. And the idea Hashem says, Esel Ezer, Zera, there'll be children. I want to make a wife, a husband will be able to get married, have children from the wife. And I want to add to that, there's many other words that you could put together. I don't know if people do Scrabble over here. But if you take the letters of Ezer, you have a Zer, a crown. The wife is really the crown of so to speak, in a certain sense, of the family. And of the family, of the husband, so to speak. And this idea of Oz, she gives strength to the husband, we have in the word. And we also have the idea, it's also the idea of Raz. Right. So the Ra, that's the opposite. The opposite of Eza is Ra. If you don't have an Eza, if you don't have a wife, you have Ra. That's the opposite. That's what people have to realize. Like it says, like Topaz it's not good.
Air.
It's got the air. She keeps the husband on his toes, keeps him awake, and also the idea of Raz. If you take a look at Raz, Zar. We'll get to the Zar in a second. Raz is the idea of secrets. There's a certain type of personal relationship, and there's a certain type of person. Not everything between the husband and the wife is not public information. There's some sort of private relationship that they have with each other, and there's also the idea of Zar. There are times that she's a Nida, but sometimes the Zar represents, sometimes you cannot be intimate with each other. I'm just saying, it's just very interesting, a little Scrabble homework on the word Ezer. Rabbi Friedman just said the word Zera, but I just took it a little further. Now we find in the parsha, this week's parsha, we find this terrible situation if somebody is depressed, and what depression can lead to. We find, I know in NYU there was a time period, there was suicides were very high, and they would come into the building, check the roof, so on and so forth. And a few years ago there was a lot of suicides, and not among the Orthodox community, but there was a lot of depression. And really the first death that came to the world, murder that came to the world, was as a result of depression. And I wanted to say that depression is so serious, such a serious problem, that you can have God speak to you, and it doesn't help, so to speak, sometimes. That's how sometimes it's like sometimes when a person's depressed, because as you know, we have the story with Cain and Hevel. Cain brings a korban, and it's not accepted the way Hevel's korban is accepted. And what does it say about Cain? It says Cain, he was very angry, and Hashem says to him, why are you angry? Why are you depressed? A guy who's depressed, he walks and he has his head down. Halom Tatev says, fix yourself up. You made a mistake. You didn't bring from your best as a korban, so fix it up. Don't make the same mistake, and everything will be fine. But you know what? The next pasuk, he saw that, and he kills him. So to me, I saw from this pasuk, and people have to realize that depression is a very, very serious illness, and people have to people. If you have friends, you have to realize that it's a very serious thing. And obviously, we don't recommend medication if people could do without it. But obviously, if people need it, it's like any other sickness, and they have to take their medication. And if not, I'm sorry to say that that in the Orthodox community, there have been people that have committed suicide. I'm not saying particularly in the NYU Orthodox community. I'm talking about I'm not talking about the NYU Orthodox community. I'm talking about the general Orthodox community, and these people. It's because the cases that I'm familiar with was that they were not taking their medications properly, and they were seriously depressed, and and therefore this is something that we have to learn from this week's parsha. Interesting, the Mamloes, we have the mitzvah pruvu. Everyone has to get married, have children, Imam Lois also says an interesting idea that when it comes to Torah, you also have to be pruvu in Torah. We have to be machadish kedusha. We have to learn with depth, so to speak, that we're able to be fruitful and multiply. It's not good enough just to learn something without trying to go in depth and to understand it. So that's also the idea of pruvu. We also should look at it in that context as well. Okay, so we'll bench now.